I'm Amy, and you're listening to the Creativity Matters podcast. Today on the Creativity Matters podcast, catching up with 5 things. Here we go.
You're listening to the CMP, a Creativity Matters podcast.
Stories of creative journey and a reminder that creativity matters in whatever form it takes for you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Creativity Matters podcast. I'm Amy, and this is episode 432, a holiday project. Holiday project. Because we are sort of there. It has been a week. That's probably what I almost always say. And I am really feeling it. It has been a week. Work is so busy. It's all good. Good projects. Just too much. Unless we somehow split the time-space continuum and there is another me, it's just too much. Probably the creative highlight of my week might have been making a little spreadsheet showing the too much in all of its color-coded glory and coming out the other end of that and still saying, but I don't really want to give up any of those things. In the same way that your house clutters, these days I feel like it's only me. My house continues to clutter. Clutter is way too mild a word for what's going on here. But in the same way that happens, things accumulate. Things pile on. You pile things on in your life. You carry more and more with you as time goes by. You add things to what you carry. I think that happens when you're in a job. Gradually, things pile on. More and more and more. You're still the same person. Same amount of capacity. So it has been a week, and it will be another week and another and another. And so these margins that I have, the periphery that is my creative life, it is a comfort. It is a habit and a routine and in its own way a refuge. Do I wish things were better blended? Yes, although what I do in my day-to-day work is very creative and it's a very good blend of the things I enjoy. It's very separate though from this side of me, from this art side of me, from this creative side of me, from this me. I am definitely older and wiser. I'm not as old though as some of you seem to think, but of course it's been very clear how old exactly I am because we talked about it endlessly last year. But wiser, maybe. It's not necessarily something that correlates to happier. I intended to record this 5 things sort of show last week, and it didn't happen. And then I thought every day this week that I would get up early and I would manage it. And that also didn't happen. One of the Illustrate Your Week prompts this week was morning light. And I had to admit to myself, stop and realize that I have not seen morning light even once. Not once. This is a month in which I know it's there, and I have made a habit of chronicling it over the last few years. And this month, I haven't seen it even once. This year is just so different, and the patterns are just so different. So this show didn't happen last week, didn't happen during the week. There was no light recorded. That makes me sad. Kept thinking about the show, though. Kept thinking about needing to do it. And then somewhere in the last 24 hours, I started thinking, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And of course, that's dangerous mental ground. Doing a show like this always leaves you with the risk of being misunderstood, misheard, misinterpreted, assumptions made. or the sense that whatever I managed to say in 14 or 18 minutes is the sum total of everything I know or everything I think, and that is set in stone, which of course, if you know me, you know that's not the case. Thought is a much more elastic thing than that, and change is inevitable, and cycles happen. We journey, we pivot, we turn, we spiral, we spin. We might go back and do something again and again and again, and then veer off or branch out or birdwalk and come back again. And what we think changes along with that. What we know grows along with that. What we enjoy changes. Our context, our environment, our means, our money, it all plays into what we do and what we think and what we feel about our creative lives at any given point. And that's true for me too. It's very true for me. I just happen to talk about it. So, I intended to record this 5 things sort of show last week. But I didn't have 5 things. And I'm not sure I have 5 things now. I am here today with the same holdover set that I had last week because there are still things I want to talk about. We are moving into Thanksgiving week, and that is puzzling. It's puzzling to me how it could possibly already be Thanksgiving week. I feel like I was just talking about November and these really important themes of November gratitude, light, memory, reflection, the projects that go along with that, the projects that I ended up not managing, not doing, not even starting. To be true and honest, I actually gathered the things. I went and collected a whole bag of things for my day-by-day drawing, and I didn't make it past that. I feel like I never even got started on this month, and here it is, almost over. And I'm tired. I'm tired. So I am going to keep things easy today with just a couple of things, because a list can help sort out the world. A couple of random tidbits, little things to bring together, and we'll see if they have anything to do with creativity or not. They do. I'm kidding. They do. So, number 1, it's a knitting project. Here's the too long didn't listen. It's a knitting project, an organizational challenge, and a rabbit hole, and it may drive me crazy. So that's probably what you need to know, and you can just skip forward. I can't tell you what minute to skip to, though. Sorry, I don't have that kind of psychic vision, although this will take a few minutes. So, a knitting project, because in years past, my mom and I knit a joint project over the holidays. So we both knit the same thing. And she is normally with us. She's normally here. And she normally comes for a few weeks. So we always decide on a project, plan it, and then we start it, and we knit on it through the holidays. And then we do have a New Year's tradition of starting and finishing things. Sometimes this project plays into that. For me, it usually doesn't because I never finish. But this year, things are going to be different because of the pandemic, of course. So we thought we would still maybe do a joint project. But we have different tastes. We typically find a way to come together and meet in the middle of something that fits a category and a look that we both like. But it isn't always an immediate discovery. So she sent a whole bunch of pattern suggestions for things that she would be interested in making and that she thought fit what I might be willing to make. And I looked at that list and then decided to find my own set of suggestions. So I spent forever a few weeks ago scouring Ravelry. And Ravelry is a knitting site. For those of you who don't knit, it's a site where you can go and find patterns, buy patterns, and you can share your own projects and log the work you're doing, the things you want to make, and so on. It's an entire community. It's huge, but it's a good place to look for patterns. So I went and found a bunch, and I spent a lot of time. I thought about it. I overthought about it. I debated. I picked. I sorted. I chose. Found a bunch of things that I thought would be interesting to do and doable enough, because my completion ratio these days and these years is not good. I used to be the one who made lots of things and lots of big things. My mother actually sent me a picture this week saying, look what I'm wearing. And it's a sweater I made years ago for myself, really oversized, which at the time was really what I did. And now I don't even know if it would fit me, but I had forgotten even all about it. I used to make big things. I have a number of sweaters, not like dozens and dozens, but I have a bunch, and I made a lot of lace work and shawls. Not so much these days. I don't finish anything. So I found things that I thought were small enough that I could do them. Then I sent the list off. And she looked through that list and she found a couple that she liked and said, okay, maybe one of these. And so I think we were thinking about it. I thought we were thinking about those things. And a few days later, I get an email that says, okay, I think I am going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I think we should do. That was unusual because there were some really good suggestions on the list I had sent, right? We always think whatever list we make has really good suggestions, but I think they really were good suggestions. So what she sent and what she picked is a cowl, because we often make a cowl. It's something that we can wear, that we both do wear, that we both would wear. It's typically smaller in terms of the amount of knitting, which means there's a better chance that I might finish it. And it's shorter in duration overall, which means that it can typically be finished in the time span of the few weeks right before Christmas or right before the holidays. And that makes sense because that's usually the time we have. Hats could work, but neither of us wear hats. Mitts are my favorite thing, but they would probably be a little bit too easy to finish. Socks would probably be perfect, but again, that's something probably I enjoy more. So cowls tend to be an excellent solution. So what she picked, though, is a cowl, but I think it's a cowl that I would never wear. I looked at it and thought, no way. This is not something I have any interest in doing. This is not something I think I will ever wear. And I was really discombobulated by it. I was a little upset by it somehow. I was surprised by the pick, especially when there were so many things I actually thought I might want to make out of what I had sent. But I didn't say anything. I held off. I thought, okay, let me think about it. And one of the things that you can do on Ravelry, and one of the things that I almost always do when considering a project, is go and look at the projects that other people did. So they used this pattern, and there might be 1,000 people who have made that pattern and shared their photos. And I love it when a lot of people have made something because I can go and look and browse. And sometimes a pattern that I really like, when I look at how a bunch of other people made it, I think, I'm not so sure. So it's a really good tool. It's a good way to search and browse. It gives you a sense of what things look like in the real world. So I did that. I went and looked. A couple days later, for a few days, I just thought, no way. I don't know how to tell her, but I just am a no way here. And then I thought, okay, let me go look and see what other people did. And as I started looking, I realized that there are a bunch of really cool ones. The pattern itself is really just a formula. And you then can choose whatever patterns you want to put in this thing. You can hear already the issue here, right? You can choose whatever you want. It's completely freeform. That didn't completely change what I thought, but as I started seeing these really cool examples, some I didn't like, some I thought, oh no, but some I thought, oh, look. And I started seeing these really cool patterns that were used in the cowl. I thought, well, okay, I guess if everything was perfect, maybe it has some possibility. So I looked at some of the notes and the things people had included, those specific charts and patterns they had used. And I started thinking, okay, maybe it would be fun to do this. Although I still don't think it looks like something I will ever wear, but I could see that it might be fun. And yet, to make it fun, to make it something I'm willing to do, I have to figure out the right mix of things to use, the right charts and the right patterns. It's basically a tubular cowl that is then grafted at the ends so that there isn't a right or wrong side, which makes it a little heavier than things I normally wear. If you know anything about knitting, it actually calls for worsted, which would make it much heavier when doubled. I don't live somewhere where that's necessarily useful, so I would need to make mine lighter, fingering or DK, which means more knitting, and it becomes this spiral from there. So it is Fair Isle. It's called My Favorite Things Cowl, and it is a Fair Isle pattern, which is very funny. When I made these notes, I had audio recorded a few notes and it recorded it as Pharaoh. I'm accentuating how you say it, so you know I'm saying a different word. Pharaoh, Pharaoh. That's how it got Fair Isle. So over and over in this little section, it talks about Pharaoh, which is just very funny. And I actually looked at a game the other day that had Pharaoh in the title, and I was going to buy that game as a surprise and a treat, and I debated on choosing from a series of games, and by the time I finally decided on the Pharaoh game, after reading a bunch of articles and one article about 3 times and watching several videos, and I had it up on the screen in front of me and the deal price was still there, and I clicked to add it to my cart and it was gone. The deal was over. Just on that one, and on the one other one I had decided. I had finally made a decision, and it was over. Pharaoh, Fair Isle, these are the little spider webs of thought. So it's Fair Isle. It's 2-color Fair Isle. You use 2 colors a row. And so basically the cowl is striped in bands of Fair Isle, whatever colors you want to use, and you can put whatever you want in those patterns. So some people use a mix of traditional Fair Isle and other things, and some people just use traditional Fair Isle, and some people just use other things. Again, it's called My Favorite Things. And so when you start looking, there are things like Doctor Who things and sheep and Harry Potter things and lots of traditional Fair Isle patterns and dots and stripes and florals. There are turtles and cats and dogs and pretty much anything you can imagine. There's an infinite number of possibilities of what you could put in this thing, because anything that has been charted, even charted for cross stitch, if you can reduce it to 2 colors, 1 color and a background, it's fair game. For me, this is both an exciting thing and an overwhelming thing, and that's what was happening. I was on one of my walks and I was looking online at all these patterns and all these examples and screenshotting and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at dozens of examples of previous projects and the patterns people had used, and I started to get overwhelmed. Excited? Yes. Finally feeling the spark of, okay, maybe I'd be willing to do this, but definitely overwhelmed. And I sent her a message and I said, oh my goodness, you must not understand me at all to have even suggested this. And I went on and said, I didn't think this is something I would want to make at all when I first looked at what you sent, but then I looked at other people's projects, and now I am in this rabbit hole looking at all the patterns and trying to sort out what I would use. So basically, I meant you picked a project that will absolutely make me crazy, will pull every anxiety string I have, because I can't make choices and I will drive myself nuts researching this. So that's what I meant when I sent this email. And she laughed, in an email. She laughed at me and she said, oh, that it was the perfect thing for me, she thought. And that I'll be all organized about it and I'll have it this way, blah, 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 and all my basically ducks in order, and she won't at all and will be so different because of that. But, she was really glad I was so excited about it. I don't think people who don't overthink or who don't have these issues making choices get it. So it's been several weeks now and we've been talking about it. I don't have a list still. My feelings are still really mixed. I'm probably a little negative when we do talk about it. I call it no offense to the designer. This is all about me. I call it the toy box cowl when I look at it because the sample is really cute. It's on a kid and it's in, really bright basic colors and it is very cute. But I call it the toy box cowl. And I keep saying there's just no way I shouldn't do this. I still don't think it's a great project for me because I don't think I'm ever going to wear this thing. So then it is really about process, which is fine. A lot of things I do are about process, which is probably why I don't finish so many things. A lot of things I finish and I don't ever even tuck in the ends and I never wear them. I just put them aside. That happened with a cowl that I made last year. Of course, it has not been cold, but sometimes I don't even finish things. So I don't know. It is night and day different from most of the projects I was considering for December. And I think I haven't really been able to just let go of all those other things because sort of like drawing where I only draw one thing a day, I knit even less. And I definitely don't knit multiple things a month. I don't even knit multiple things a year anymore. It's not where I spend my time. So I feel really protective of committing my time to a one thing and committing my yarn to a project I'm not sure that I'm going to like. That has me stumped a little bit. So there's a total disjunct about this for me. I'm still really mulling it over, although I'm also, rolling down a hill towards the start date because it will happen. I have spent hours, especially wee morning hours, poking around looking at different Fair Owl patterns and charts and trying to figure out what I want to do. I don't have a list. I don't have a plan. I have a bunch of screenshots that are all disorganized. Some are on my phone. Some are on my computer. Some are not in Evernote where they should be because I couldn't remember my password any of the few times I tried to add them. I am a little all over the place. I don't have anything sorted out. I don't even really have what I need in terms of yarn. It should be something you can make with your stash with lots of leftovers and bits. Somehow it isn't that straightforward. It's been 25 years since I had my blog called Threaded Thoughts, which is a URL I lost and still breaks my heart to think about a perfect phrase. And that was a knitting blog. It's been a long time. I don't have that same kind of stash. I don't have the same kind of anything because my knitting fell away as my drawing took over. So we're supposed to start December 1, and yet that has somehow moved up to Thanksgiving Day, which is just a few days earlier. So it's fine. I guess in the same way that everyone else is moving things up, trying to salvage 2020, something to look forward to, something to start, something to do. I think people already have decorations up and it is a thing. So I have a few days to either sort it out or just start, I guess. I do really need to at least make some kind of list of the patterns that I have found. Have some good ones. Definitely some dots will appear. A couple of the ones I liked most really just had big sections of simple pattern and were really elegant and sedated and pulled together, but beautifully done. And I don't have any of those colors, but they were really pretty. But probably I'll do it more in the striped way with smaller motifs. I have some birds. I liked the trees and almost every one that I saw, so I will definitely do some trees, although that doesn't necessarily seem relevant for me, but I love how they looked. I don't know. It's a toy box cowl, so I at least have to decide the first pattern to use and 2 colors to get started. So we'll see. Could be super cool, but I don't think I'll ever wear it. I have said many, many times, I really think it would be fine as a pillow. I should just do it as a pillow. There's a lot of merit to that idea. It's not a pattern that you can make that decision down the road, though. So I guess I'll just follow along and make a cowl. My favorite things, cowl. My toy box cowl for 2020. I really probably need to find a coronavirus crown. A crown. I do need to find a crown. I can't remember if I looked for a crown. I definitely should include a crown. We can sing royals as we look at my favorite things cowl down the road. And at that point, there'll probably be some coronavirus song that we can also sing, and we'll weave it all together in some way that makes sense. All right. 30 minutes talking about this. You can tell I really need to actually know people. Number two. I started a strange, maybe unusual, but fun series of window shopping by color. And I don't like to window shop in person at all. But online, it's very easy to do it. So I want to mention it because for those of you who don't normally visit the show notes page for each show or the site or the blog. I want to mention it because you might find it interesting. So I have called it loosely the ROYGBIV Supplies series, and I am going through the colors one by one and just posting a bazillion images of pens and pencils and creative tools and related supplies in each color. And it's all fun. It's all fun. Obviously, these are not all things that I have. But when I was making my own holiday list recently, and that is something I believe in and enjoy doing, even though I end up way overthinking it. It's a list for my family. It's something that we do, and it's helpful. It's helpful these days. So I got inspired by the color of something in the 2020 Hobonichi line, and then started thinking, oh, look, there's a pen that matches that, and there's also a ballpoint that matches that, and this and that. And, oh, maybe I should even, oh, yes, maybe. So I fell down this little path based on color. And I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because you might be the kind of person that starts over on January 1 with a new planner, and you dive into color that way, whatever color your planner is, or maybe it's a new blank book, could be a new anything. And you think, well, I could have a pen that color, or it would be fun to have paper clips or Post-it notes or a little field note to go along with it, or a pen bag or something in that color. So it's that mentality. The ROYGBIV Supplies is that mentality. And so I started poking around in each color. I started with red, and if you go and look at it, you'll see there's just a ton of things in red. So it's really fun. It's just fun to pull the page up and see, oh, all these red office and art supplies. Cool. And then I did orange, and same thing, and yellow and green and blue. And I'm on indigo now. I haven't finished it. Indigo was harder. It's a harder color to quantify somehow, and definitely harder than to sort out supplies like that kind of fit. So it's probably the murkiest of them. After I finish ROYGBIV, I have a few others I want to do: jade or aqua and pink, and then black and white. And it's just fun. You might enjoy just pulling up those pages and looking at the swath of supplies in each color. Definitely don't expect people to really buy those things, but it is fun, and it might give you an idea. Maybe you see a red pen and you're thinking, that's the pen that will go perfectly with this or that. Maybe. So it's just a fun way to start your own process of looking. And I think everybody should be looking. You should be looking, and it's probably harder to go out and look in real stores this year in the same way that maybe you sometimes do it. So there's a lot of online looking. I only pulled up things, though, from Amazon on these lists. It's just easy. Yes, it is an affiliate account, but it's just easy. It makes it easy to put it in. So there are other great choices from Jet Pens and from Goulet Pens and from all the other wonderful pen stores and suppliers online. So yes, definitely search and browse your favorite sites and places, but you can get a jump start on things by looking at these lists. Amazon has a lot of stuff. They don't have all the brands, though, that you might love in your fountain pens or ink, for example. So number 3. So for number 3, I am going to mention a book, and I've mentioned a few books that I've pulled up on Hoopla in these months. The experience can really vary. Not sure it's my favorite way to look at art books, but it has allowed me to look at some art books. And it might just be on the phone that everything is really small that way. Different than reading a fiction book or something. When you're looking at these books, you're really seeing the whole page. And so the experience is quite different. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to use Hoopla or not, but it's convenient to be able to do it. So it's at least a possibility. When things are available, I'm glad for that possibility. I am grateful for that possibility. The one I want to talk about now, I think it was probably an accidental find. I'm sort of at the point where I'm willing to look at whatever I can find that fits some of my keywords. Might have been in a related search. I don't really know. And I wasn't sure about it when I first started looking through it. I have pulled up a few that have not been for me, and I wasn't sure about this one. And I put it aside, and then later I opened it up and I started at the end the second time. I think it was close to the time it was going to be returned. And I just, for some reason, I went to the end and I started flipping backwards. And I mean, flipping, just swiping those pages pretty quickly in some cases. So I wasn't really reading, I was looking. And as I started going backwards, I found that I was really enjoying the mix. I started seeing suggestions that I thought were super cool, and I wasn't zooming in necessarily and reading all the text. I was really focused on the actual idea, the name of the chapter, and the samples, the examples shown. Flipping through it that way, I found a number of things that I thought were great, and so I thought this is a book that you might want to look at. Some of the things suggested are things I have done before, and I have seen in other places, and I have even talked about. But that's pretty much true with our creative spaces and ideas and things. Especially prompt books or idea books, we might see the same ideas in lots and lots of books, and that's okay. What sometimes makes the difference is how these things are illustrated or what examples are used, what you see as a way of showing that idea. And that's where this book really shines for me. The book is Playing with Sketches, 50 Creative Exercises for Designers and Artists by Whitney Sherman. I have no idea in person what size this book is, what format, or what it really looks like in real life. But there are exercises about shapes and pattern and texture and form. I had to check the book out again to get ready for this show. And in starting from the beginning to refresh how the book is laid out and how it starts, I noticed that the first several are the kinds of exercises that don't necessarily resonate with me particularly. The very first one does, though. It is on just drawing mindful lines. But then some of the other ones in the front don't. And that's when I realized that I had started at the back. And that's where, for me, everything just really jumped out at me. So I got lucky by doing that. I don't know if digitally I would have stuck with it all the way through otherwise. If you have it in front of you, though, I'm sure you would flip through the whole thing and find what's right for you. There are 50. There are a bunch of things that might really strike you and then some that might not. That's true in any kind of mix, I think, especially when it's presented as a general mix. It's not just urban sketching or just everyday matters or just drawing people or just nature journaling. So this is a book you definitely might want to check out and see if your library has, if you're able to do curbside pickup, or if you are able to get it online like I did. Some of the things that caught my attention were exercises like drawing covers. That was a great one to see. It's something that we've talked about. Some of us do it. Some of us have done it recently as part of Illustrate Your Week. Some of us do or have tried spine art, illustrating our book stacks or doing shelves or spine stacks like Bibliophile, that really wonderful book that everybody should check out. There are some great examples in this book, and there are some good examples of the covers. There's something about seeing the idea on a page and some context, some rationale. Related to the covers was seeing magazine covers drawn, and that one really sparked my interest and curiosity. It really did. You will see that idea come up in a few weeks. It will be a prompt coming up, and I think it is a really good idea. These things are similar to the drawing of jars and labels and products, something that always grabs my fancy. It's a process that can be much more difficult than it seems. I think people underestimate how easy or difficult it may be to draw the jar of olives or draw the box of tea or whatever it might be, the leftover bottle from your ale or your cold brew or whatever it might be, your kombucha. Our hands and brains do not necessarily effectively manage to get all the detail from a label into the space that you have on the page. And so we just have to go with it. That's partly what I like about these kinds of things. You just have to go with it. Even when you draw your spine of a book in a stack, you might not be able to fit the whole title and the author or the publisher or whatever appears on the real spine. When you actually try to do it in small scale on your page, it's a lot more difficult than it seems. I'm generalizing that, but I don't think that is just me. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think it's difficult. I love the challenge, though. I love actually the wonkiness that often happens because it doesn't all fit. And I love the giving up and letting go and just going with it, that you just have to accept that you cannot get all that label in your pen and ink. Somehow I like that. And it also always makes me really love digital art so much, and the whole graphic design element that goes into all of that. When you try to draw it, there's some wackiness and some wonkiness that goes with it. So I do like that. So magazine covers would be a really good challenge. I did a simple book cover this week in my Illustrate Your Week spread, and I really enjoyed it. And I really like seeing it on the page. I left a space next to it thinking I would grab another book and do it, and I haven't done that, and that space is still there. I'm either going to fill that space in with some notes, which will be just notes, good notes that would make a lot of sense to me, but I'm kind of tempted to do another cover. Just a little one. They're quick. They don't have to be perfect. They definitely don't all fit. So magazine covers is definitely something that I want to try. It's pretty easy to snap a picture of a magazine, even if you're just at the grocery store or at the pharmacy, or if your library is open, you can always hit up the periodicals section. It's always fun to look at the magazine covers. So why not draw them? That's kind of a cool thing. You had to find the right one, but I saw one recently that was super cool, and I might have to draw that. But I think it's a cool thing. I often screenshot or take pictures of magazine covers because I like the styling of the person on the cover. If it's something that shows a pop icon or anyone, someone in politics, whatever, any person that might be on the cover, and that's pretty common on covers. So often I am intrigued by those covers. I think I'll try to draw one. Some of the other prompts in this book include mapping, one day, one theme, draw a process, sketching from film or TV, also a great one, everyday lists, lettering, 5-minute drawings, diagramming objects. I called out ones there that are ones that appeal to me. There are a whole bunch of others, and I definitely encourage you to take a look. The overall mix is really all over the place. I do think a lot boils down to the examples that she has included. I really like the examples. So even if these are concepts or exercises that are familiar or that I've done before or that I already love, what I most enjoyed was seeing the range of examples. They were really good examples and really nice to just look at. A nice thing for your brain to just look at these good examples and then think about, maybe I should do that, or, oh yeah, I already do that, but look how cool it looks when other people do it. So I found it rewarding, enjoyable, inspiring to flip through these and see the examples, and I think you will like it for that reason too. Well, that was number 3, and somehow I thought I would have 5. Not sure I'm going to make it to 5, but I've been talking forever. Somehow the toy box cowl really took a lot of time. I'm sorry. I seem a little on the less than half full side of things right now, I think. So numbers 4 and 5, that seems kind of a problem because I already knew last week what 1 to 3 would be about in general. And so a whole week has passed. You would think I would have a 4 and a 5. And maybe the problem is they just don't always seem super chipper. They don't always seem super chipper. Here's a slightly not super chipper. It made it into my Illustrate Your Week in the barest form, so I can argue that it's also creative. So number 4, I decided one day this week to pick up coffee as a treat, and it is a treat. Some of you, it's a daily thing or a once a week thing or whatever. It's a random, rare thing. We had finally mailed off a commission that my son had done, and we finally took it and finally got it shipped out. And so after doing that, we were driving home, and we aren't always out that much these days. So I suggested we stop by Starbucks. And so we did. And then home again, I was back to work, and I was working, and I was really focused on what I was doing, and I kept getting interrupted by some questions in my house. So I went to set my computer on this makeshift table desk that I am using, and it took me a second to realize what I had done, but I had knocked over my prized coffee all over the table. Thank goodness it happened, I guess, the way it did, because my computer did not get wet. Thank goodness. There is a glimmer there. But pretty much this little table flooded. I think I had only had a drink or two of my coffee. So my table flooded. There are dozens and dozens of pens scattered all over this table. They all got soaked. They were just swimming in a sea of coffee. And it took quite a while to get it cleaned up. The pens seemed to hold on to the coffee. I would wipe them off and then they would still be wet. And it was really a process. But my table did get wiped down, which some of you know I really needed to do. This table is it's 25, it might be 30 years old. I don't know. It's probably from when I was in graduate school. And I'm scratching at it. There's your little ASMR for the day. It picks up ink. So it picks up smudges and it holds them. So it could be because it's old or it could be because it's plastic. And it holds on to its messiness pretty badly. So it was good to wipe it down. But I was really, really, really crushed that I had knocked over my treat. And the pens, every time I picked up a pen that night, it still smelled like caramel macchiato. So I guess that was a good thing. But it was a bummer. I was bummed. Definitely bummed. All right. So that would be a 4. And it is creative because one of the prompts was something someone said to you. And it was a funny moment for me. I needed to record multiple panels to really explain it and get it, but I got it down enough. It works for me. What I'm putting down is not for anyone else. It's really not. And that's the whole point of doing Illustrate Your Week and keeping an illustrated journal or illustrated diary or sketch note diary, whatever you want to call it. So number 5, I don't really have a number 5, but because I knew that I might not have a number 5, and I was still racking my brain because my brain is just tired. And my brain is forgetting a lot of things, which is really scaring me. But because I thought, well, I don't really know what to say. Oh, I don't know. Ooh, we don't want to say that. But we just did. I pulled out a little strand of lights. And I've mentioned it before. Someone gave me these. And if someone could just like Calgon take me away and remove everything in my house and let me start over with a blank room and let me sit in some Zen state in the middle of the floor, I think it would just change my entire world. I could definitely go down that bird walk, but I can't manage that. So I look around and I'm overwhelmed. I've got this little strand of lights out and I plugged it in and it's sitting right here next to me. And it was my little token gesture today to remember who I am and what I believe and the calmness that I try to bring to how we talk about and think about art and life and memory and reality. The season, these things that I normally get all philosophical about. If I keep recording for the next month, those things all come up. It's my favorite philosophical time of year to record this show. But normally I am in my office and I have lights in there I can just turn on. 2020 is a different thing. So I plugged these in and they're just really sitting here next to my computer. But it's this little bit of light and it's sparkly and happy. And there's glow. And that's a really good number 5.
I am the art. The art is me.
So that is going to be it for today. This is an eternally long show, a show that I didn't think would be long at all. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I appreciate those of you who are listening. I appreciate those of you who are doing Illustrate Your Week. I do plan to continue doing that in December. I think I will go ahead and do it the same way. I had thought I might go back to the day by day, but the feedback I've gotten has been that A, some people don't like the daily prompts anyway, and B, because whatever it is on a certain day might not fit your day, that doesn't necessarily work if that's the only thing that you get that day. So doing them in advance for the whole week, that seems to work. I know some of you only like one or the other sets of prompts. Not saying I disagree. I actually like having both, and having both makes me think about them differently. If I just put 30 on a single image, it wouldn't have the same feeling for you. If I just gave you 7 or 10, still a lot less than having both sets. So I like the mix. And that's partly because I need the mix. I don't always manage the daily one either. I don't always manage it on that day, But I go back every day and look at what's there and think, well, can I hit something that's been from today or before? And then I look at the scavenger list and think, oh, are there any here that I could tackle? So for me, that has really evolved into something that works and is really helpful for me right now, as I really need to just not have to make a ton of decisions. I fight the decision fatigue, and having these lists kind of helps with that. So I think I will do it the same way in December. There are only a couple people doing it with me, and that's okay. I really appreciate those of you who are, and I am really enjoying getting to know some of you through this project and through Inktober Portraits last month in October. So it has been really, really nice. So I hope some of you will continue doing it with me. And maybe in the new year, I will just keep on with this and keep doing it. And maybe I'll branch it out and, work with a smaller group of people doing it together. I don't know. I would be willing to do a couple of different things in that realm and range with people. So we'll see. But for now, we have another week of November, and then we will kick off in December. And I'm hoping December will be especially fun and personally meaningful as a way of tracking the month, the holiday month, whatever holidays you do celebrate, whatever traditions you have, whatever it's going to look like for 2020. I hope that it will be a good thing. So I am Amy. You can reach me at creativitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. The show notes are available on the creativitymatterspodcast.com website. You will find links to things I talk about on the show, like the book I mentioned. You will find the ROYGBIV Supplies series there if you want to poke around and browse. And of course, when you just click a link to Amazon and then do other Amazon searching on your own there, it can benefit the show. A few pennies here, a few pennies there. So I appreciate those of you who do that. The music I play is courtesy of Nikolai Heidless. You can find me at Instagram as OAmy and as Creativity Matters Podcast, which is where the Illustrate Your Week prompts will show up. I do still ask that you consider following me at YouTube. I haven't put anything else out there. It is still my Just Do It project. And I could talk more about that, but it's still my Just Do It project. It's become pretty clear that most of you use players rather than the show notes, because the video versions of these shows, which are audio only, definitely only have a couple of views. So that has been interesting to see. I probably knew that anyway. I also use players, but I hit websites lots of times and listen to shows on websites, especially when I'm working. So I use players when I'm out and about. I typically use websites when I'm working if I just pull up somebody's show. So I hope that you might follow Creativity Matters Podcast at YouTube as well. Thank you to those of you who support the show in any way. I am, of course, grateful for all of your support, all of your belief in this show now and this year and through the years. Thank you to those of you at Patreon, patreon.com/Creativity Matters. Until next time, remember that creativity matters in whatever form it takes for you. And don't forget to breathe. Have a good week, everyone.
I am the art is me.